Hello, and welcome to On Stage with the 25th Annual Coffeehouse. 2024, the air is poor. I'm your host and PTHS teacher, Erin Boni. We're here to promote the winter production put on at PTHS. Today I have 3 guests that I will interview to take you through this production, which will appear at the high school on December 5th, 6th, and 7th at 7 p.m. in the high school cafeteria. So first up, I have Miss Beth Wilmus, my colleague and friend, as well as the person who helped me become a theater mom. Beth has been directing Coffeehouse for many years, and I want to talk with her about this unique experience. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So my first question is, tell me a bit about, because even though we're friends, I feel like you've been doing Coffeehouse forever.
Yes.
How did it originally start, and how was your role in developing it into what it is today?
So Coffeehouse actually started as a fundraiser for Troupe 185. And the first director was Mr. Jeff Sudol.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to have to get him to make
I
an
came on as the tech director, actually. Okay. So directing was not my original role. And then we had someone else who was directing for a few years, and then once that person left, I stepped up and took over the directing role. Coffeehouse has changed a lot.
Okay.
We started off with the little tiny wooden stage at the old Peters Township High School. And no, tablecloths, like very little food. It was basically just kind of coffee and maybe one kind of dessert. Okay. So every year I try to think of how can we make it better? What can we do to make this more of like the event of the season, to sort of kick off the holiday season, to bring more people in to see our amazing, talented students. So it's definitely changed from kind of a bare bones nothing to sort of a production, a full-fledged production of our, theatrical year of our season. So so it's changed definitely a lot in the past 25 years.
Awesome. So what makes directing Coffeehouse? So just to give everybody who's not seen it kind of an idea, kids perform, there is food served at the table, you kind of order and pay. So that kind of fundraiser, but more of like a Coffeehouse feel, but you've added a lot of ambiance, I noticed last year. There's centerpieces and things like that. But how is it unique other than the fact that it's in the cafeteria and not on stage? So tell me, what makes it either better or worse directing, or both, in that space?
Well, our old cafeteria was sort of a more intimate feel because we could block off everything. This cafeteria is gorgeous, but it's huge and open, so the sound goes everywhere. So that makes it really tricky for our sound team to make all of the students sound good. So sound is definitely an issue that we have that we're constantly trying to work on improving. But what is different is that when you go to see, Romeo and Juliet or the musical or anything, you're seeing the exact same show, whether you come Thursday night or you come Sunday matinee. Coffeehouse has 3 totally different shows. So the Thursday night lineup is completely different than the Friday night lineup, than the Saturday night lineup, which makes it really interesting for our hosts because they have to be, and our tech team, to be really on the ball as, okay, wait, last time there was a piano act coming after this, skit. Now that's not the case. It's a completely different show each night. But I also feel like that makes it super fun because you could come all 3 nights and get a completely different experience. For me as a director, it's tricky because then I have to change the lineup and make sure that, this kid's in this skit, but then they're also doing a solo. So they have to have enough time to change and prepare and get mic'd up for their next act. So I would say it's challenging, but it makes it fun because, it's also obviously live. So the hosts, if we have a technical issue or a band's taking longer to set up, they have to come up with things on the spot.
To say.
Yeah. And so we've talked about how do you stretch, how do you do things to make the audience stay engaged and involved, not just, we're sitting here for 5 minutes while this guy plugs in his guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I was thinking that, another thing too, like when you have a stage, you have multiple curtains, right?
Yes.
So your tech people can be setting up. It's like here, everybody's seeing everything you're doing. You're bringing drums on. We're seeing you bring drums on. I mean, you can turn the lights down, but you're still seeing all the tech that's happening.
Yes.
So not only does it have to happen quickly, but efficiently and not disastrously because everybody's watching everything that you do.
Yeah, and our tech crew is so professional and they work so hard. And they really love this show, but it's also really challenging because they have to constantly be on. There's no, okay, we're waiting now 20 minutes while this scene goes for the next scene change. It is a scene change every 5 minutes. So it's a really fast-paced show, which is another reason I love it, because it's like, ooh, who's coming out next? Or, you know, you might have a kid sitting in your class that you had no idea could play the piano or who was an amazing dancer. And I think it really showcases just how talented our students are. People say to me all the time, is this like a performing arts school? You guys are amazing, and the students are amazing. So
which is awesome. Okay, so how do you prepare? Well, I guess I should back up a little bit. First of all, tell me what kind of student leadership roles there are as far as Coffeehouse goes that might be different from theirs. And then how do you prepare the students not only to be directors or helpers, but also how do you prepare the hosts for this production?
Yeah, so we have, we've got a great tech team, and then there's usually a stage manager. This year's Grant Skillings, and then we have 2 students who are heading up our tech. So we have Zayed and Matt, who are the co-heads of tech. So they are dealing with the sound and lights, whereas Grant is the run crew, who's bringing everything on, making sure everyone's mic'd up, those kinds of things.
The next person's ready to go.
Right. But honestly, who's really kind of our heavy hitters are the house managers. For every other show, house managers are in charge of the ushers, and they sort of take the tickets and worry about the front of house. But for our show, they have to decorate the cafeteria. They're the ones who we sit down and we kind of come up with, you know, obviously we've got T-Swift this year, so how can we make it feel more, you know, Swifty and, you know, friendship bracelets and those kinds of things to help sort of promote the theme that's going, because every year is a different theme, which makes it also exciting to come up with, you know, ridiculous ideas. The Lord of the Mugs and Revenge of the Mugs and the Mugvengers.
Was last year Barbie, or was that 2 years
last year
ago?
Was Barbie. Yeah, last year was
and obviously too, trying to find things that are timely as well.
Yes, right. And that kids can, you know, create intros sort of around, or we're following a story as it goes. So Cole Martin and Claire Paez are our house managers. So they really are dealing with all the servers, what the tables look like, creating that ambiance is really their job. And it's a lot because it's a big space. And we also do the lobby as well. So it's very time consuming.
You have a whole Christmas tree that like everything was Barbie. Like, wow. Just a lot going on.
Lights, we decorate. I mean, we transform that space as much as we possibly can. So,
which is awesome.
And then for the hosts, they have to audition in pairs. And so the audition process takes place around the same time as the acts that audition. And then, you know, they've come up with an intro on their own. I'm not going to spoil it because it's really funny and clever. What our 2 hosts, who I think you're having on later. Okay, so Atlas and Juliana are our hosts this year. And then they have to sort of think about what's our storyline going to be. So we sit down and say, okay, so if this is the intro and this is the sort of story we're following, what's going to happen along the way and how are we going to resolve it by the end of the show? And so then they have time to kind of go off on their own and they write some intros, and then we sit down about halfway point, which we already did, and said, okay, this is great, this one's going to fall flat. And so they get to be really creative, and they're writing their own intros, and then I sort of tweak them or change them or say, I love you guys, but this one's really bad. So can we think of something better? What else can we do to sort of, you know, make this one funnier or whatever? So they're going through that process now of writing, and then during the dress rehearsals, that's the only time they get to practice. So the other thing that's different from our regular shows is you are constantly practicing the show itself. We've got 2 dress rehearsals and then we're on. So there's really not a whole lot of time for kids.
A lot more improv than
it is.
Anything else.
There's definitely a lot of improv, but those 2 are so witty and funny that I think they're going to do an amazing job.
For so long. I think
they have a chemistry
too.
there that is just incredible.
Awesome. All right, my final question is going to be, what is your favorite part of directing, period? Maybe not necessarily Coffeehouse, but just directing a show.
I love working with our students. They are so talented, but they're also hilarious. And sometimes you have a hard teaching day. And you come to rehearsal and you're like, wow, that was a rough day today as a teacher. And then, you know, I come to rehearsal and they sort of, you know, revitalize me, and you know, we laugh and joke around and work on their, you know, whatever their skill is, dancing or singing or whatever. But it allows me you know, to use sort of my more creative side, because I grew up doing shows and singing and you know, doing theater. And so sometimes as a Spanish teacher, I don't have that creative outlet. And so directing really allows me to sort of tap into that more creative side of myself and be able to, you know, come up with things. And they always joke that I'm very, you know, my puns are really bad. So we have a great time doing that. And that's really just working with our students is really what makes it very rewarding for me, is once the show all comes together after a mad dash, throwing it all together and last minute this and last minute that, you know, it turns out amazing. And people love Coffeehouse. They come back year after year after year, even if they don't know anyone in the show. And I think that's what makes it such a special, event.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with me today to talk about it.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. So thanks.
Wonderful. So when we return, we're going to speak with the two hosts of Coffeehouse. All right, so we can see what their perspective is. So we'll stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm here with Atlas and Juliana, the hosts of Coffeehouse, the Eras Pour 2024. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So I have a couple questions for you, and you can, you know, take turns answering. But tell me what this means to you to be hosting this particular production as seniors.
For me, it's kind of like a magnum opus kind of thing. Like, you know, we've been doing theater all our lives, and you know, especially in the high school, and so it's really nice to be, you know, like I watched Coffeehouse my freshman and sophomore year, and then I performed in it last year, and now I get to host it, and it's kind of like a culmination, and it's really fun to do.
Awesome.
It's definitely a lot of fun that I get to share this experience with Atlas, because the two of us have been best friends since like first grade. So we're really close, and getting to like share this connection and make this possible together has been so much fun. And just the entire journey, like we're making each other laugh. It's just a really great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Juliana, you were actually able to be part of my show over the summer, because she's done some things with South Park Children's Theater as well. So this is awesome. You guys both have done productions all over the place, and whether it be in front of or behind, you know, the scenes. So tell me, because I know Ms. Wilmus had mentioned, right, that just not you guys being, you know, being best friends really helps the chemistry. But tell me, how do you prepare for these banter and skits between acts, and what are you going to do when there's inevitably, you know, a long pause or something doesn't work?
So the way we kind of go about it is we have the list of the acts and who all's in it, and some of the acts have like an act name and stuff like that. So we kind of try our best to fit it in. We have an overarching story. Ms. Wilmus talked a little bit. So we try our best to fit the acts into the theme of our story. So what we'll do is we'll either call each other or meet up, and then we'll just kind of like throw ideas back and forth to each other. And then that's kind of how and then we wait until someone laughs, basically. And that's kind of how we gauge like if the intro is going to be a work.
It's going to work.
Right. It's basically just, you know, sit in a room and wait until something inspires you, and it's, you know, it's good when we can make each other laugh.
Right.
Because, you know, we've been on bus rides, and it's like, I've got nothing. And then Juliana's like, but what about this? And I'm like, that's it. That's the one.
That's the one.
And for me, having to improv on the spot is always a part of theater. But it's one of the scariest parts of theater, because you don't want to mess it all up.
Right.
And so, you know, and that's when we really have to play off of each other. We've got a crazy mental connection that we can totally just telepathically talk to each other.
Right, which will work in this situation.
Right, precisely.
Right, absolutely. So, and I think too, you know, the best improv is, you know, sometimes when something falls flat and you look straight at the audience, you're like, what? You know, or something gets like a little boo or something silly, right? I mean, so it's almost like you guys are kind of stand-up comedians, right? In a sense too, which is even different than theater because a lot of it more has to come authentically from you as opposed to a script. Wonderful. Okay, so how is it different performing in front of your peers at the high school versus some of the other community theater things you guys have done? And I even think Coffeehouse specifically has even more of a high school representation. I feel like more kids at the high school come out because it's a bigger, audience of kids that perform. It's not necessarily the same kind of theater kids. Whereas like a musical, you get like old people like me that come out and see stuff, right? So talk to me about peers versus just community.
So we've both been doing community theater for a long time. I know we're both in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with the right company right now.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yes.
And
Sunday 2 and 6.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 1:30.
Oh, 1:30.
But, with those kinds of shows, it's really who can we get in the community to do it? And you're really reaching out to people you know that will want to see you, But with this, it's like, good luck. This is your entire class of people that you've grown up with for the last 12 years, and, let's hope they think you're funny, or else it's going to be really embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being hosts specifically, because it's not just us learning lines or just learning songs and stuff like we would if we were given a script for community theater. Right. This is us like writing the entire show and deciding like how the course of the show is going to play out. Right. So it's a lot of responsibility in that regard. But I mean, we're both having so much fun with it, getting to be creative and just kind of influence how the show comes out.
Which is why I think it's really important for, we have our meetings with Mrs. Wilmus, or Miss Wilmus.
Yeah.
Terribly sorry. We have our meetings with Miss Wilmus, and that's really important because we can think, we know each other so well, and we're like, that's funny.
Right.
But then Miss Wilmus was like, that's not funny.
Not funny. Right.
And, and then we get to go back and write it again. And that's important because, I'd rather Miss Wilmus be like, that's lame and not funny, than have the entire audience be like, that's lame and not funny.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to, too, like something that might be entertaining for, the kind of inside joke, or even versus like, hey, a high school audience would love that, but what about all the parents and the other people that come? So I think it's hard too. You're trying to pander to a pretty wide audience, you know what I mean, of people coming to say it.
Right. So. We came into that roadblock yesterday when we were working script with Miss Wilmus. We had something. It was like, give me ox, right? And Miss Wilmus was like, okay, the 80-year-old grandmas in the audience, I have no idea. Right, no idea what ox is. Yeah. And so, just like you said, it's important and it's hard to be able to get the full range of things. Right.
Kind of get out of that like just teenager mentality and like try to cater to everyone.
And Gen Z has so many different. I mean, I had students that schooled me all last year on the lingo, and I've watched many a TikTok trying to learn. And so you have to be careful, right, to make sure that your audience is wide. Okay, so I guess my kind of final question is, how do you want the audience, what do you want them to know about this show, and how would you hype it and promote it?
This show is really particularly special because it's the 25th anniversary of Coffeehouse. Yes. So it's very exciting, and it's Taylor Swift themed, which I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so it's very exciting for me. But it's also something I want people to remember is it's not just Taylor Swift. Like, we have a ton of different takes on this whole the Eras Poor thing.
Right, and I figured that was more of it even than, I mean, the fact that Eras goes with Taylor Swift, but it goes with the fact that this is 25 years of all kinds of different things.
Exactly.
Right, we have all of the previous years that we can also play off of, and it's still in the theme. Right. Lord of the Mugs, and, what was it?
Mojo Dojo Coffee
Yeah,
House.
all the things.
Mojo, yeah. I called it Barbie, but Mojo Dojo.
Right. And it's super cool to see, it's not just what you would expect, like going to see a musical. It's not just singing and acting. Like, there's so many things that people do. You know, there's there's solos, there's duets, there's monologues, dancing, bands. You know, just the smorgasbord. And I think that's something really cool.
I think we had ventriloquism, was it last year? Or
yeah,
another year?
we did. That's
yeah.
right.
That's the first time I had ever seen that, and I was like, "That's amazing."
Yeah.
You know? Again, it's the one place where maybe all different things, you know, get to be appreciated.
Right. What is what makes it so special.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell me, one of you, where can tickets be purchased? Because I meant to put that in my plug, and I missed that somehow.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So starting November 30th.
At noon.
Yes, at noon, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yes, it is.
Tickets can be purchased online through Ludus for $5, cheapest show in town.
Yes.
Or so that can go up until the show. You can purchase on that website, or at the door you can purchase them also for $5.
Okay, and then there's all kinds of good snacks. There's drinks. So I just want to thank you guys for being with us today.
Plug the bottomless mug.
Yes, the bottomless mug.
That's a fan favorite.
So the bottomless mug is where you can purchase the mug and continue to get coffee, or
Not
hot
just
chocolate,
not just coffee,
or hot chocolate,
or
tea.
lemonade, all the things.
Oh, I didn't know you could put cold drinks in the bottomless
yeah.
mug. So yes, so you can get that, and it's a nice keepsake for after. Thank you guys so much for spending time here.
Thank
with
you
me.
for having us.
Yay! So I want to thank everybody for being here today with me to promote the show. And for our audience, please come see the 25th Annual Coffeehouse 2024, The Air is Poor, December 5th, 6th, and 7th at 7 p.m. at the high school cafeteria. Thank you.